Dead Man's Shoes is a 2004 release revenge thriller directed by Shane Meadows.
Yes, it stars Paddy Considine as Richard, a paratrooper who's returned home, and he is with his brother called Anthony, who well, sort of have mental limitations, shall we say, and he's returning to their hometown, which is in the Peak District in the north of England. And as the film starts, we see flashbacks of when Richard was away, obviously with the army, and the group of people that Anthony hung around with, and because of his difficulties, they kind of took advantage of him and abused him. And Richard has returned and wants to make these people pay for the way they treated his little brother, and
Make them pay, he does.
Yes, he does. Yes, in various unpleasant ways. They don't immediately recognise him, but once they do, he's threatening them. I mean, these group of friends, they're kind of like petty gang members or criminals, aren't they? They've got a little bit of a drug operation going on, but they're just nasty people. Basically, they're just not very pleasant.
Not very pleasant.
And and he gives them their just desserts, shall we say?
He does.
That's it really. That's the film. He gradually picks them off. Well, this is don't know what else to say really, because we don't want to reveal the ending. It's got a little bit of a twist, shall we say?
Yeah, it's one of those films that we won't talk really too much about the plot, because if you haven't seen it, it's you want to see it fresh.
Yeah.
I'll try not to talk too much about the actual plot, which is hard because I really like this film. This, like I say, came out in 2004, directed by Shane Meadows. This was his fourth film.
Mm-hmm.
He did a few films before. One standout film is A Room for Romeo Brass, which also features Paddy Considine. And also, was it Once Upon a Time in the Midlands?
Yeah.
That's very good. That's a very funny film.
I mean, he's probably most famous for This Is England, I would say, which obviously came out after.
Yeah, so This Is England obviously is the film that came after this, and that's about kind of skinheads. It was 70s, wasn't it? It was in the 70s?
Yes.
80s.
Early 80s, and then of course
80s.
there's been
the TV
2 or 3 TV
show.
series, isn't there?
Yeah,
that
exactly.
gradually see the characters a few years later.
Yeah, so this is kind of, but this was a hit. I mean, this was a huge hit when it came out, and I think it's kind of turned into a bit of a cult film. I think it's an amazing film, personally.
Great,
I think it's I remember seeing it for the first time, and there was a lot of hype around on the internet and places, and I don't think I saw it in the cinema. I think I just picked it up on DVD. And was completely blown away by it. I thought, it had the same effect. There's always, as you get older, you stop watching those kind of films that you watched as a child, and you kind of swap over to more adult films. For me, that kind of the one film I always remember swapping over to was Chopper,
right?
Which is kind of film that was adult and it was violent, and it was nasty, and it kind of blew me away and was really interesting. And I was like, oh, you can do that with film. Not just that. And this one is kind of a similar for that as well. I was just really blown out of the water by it. And Paddy Considine is amazing.
He's a great actor, and
he's a really great actor. I mean, he's around. He does so much. He's done a lot of. He was in one of the Bourne films. And he now directed his own Tyrannosaur. He directed a few years ago.
Yeah, and he's also recently. I think he wrote and directed Journeyman, and he was in it as well. Journeyman, a boxing movie, came out. I think it was earlier this year, I think it was out, or last year.
I'm not a fan of boxing movies, so I'll probably skip that one over.
I think it's supposed to be quite good, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Although, was it because Tyrannosaur was heavy going?
Yeah. I haven't seen that, but no.
God, that was tough going. It was very, very good, but it was heavy going. I mean, so we are, it says British film, and obviously Britain is famed for its gritty realism, kitchen sink and all that, which this film isn't, but it does have that kind of in there. It's a very, I mean, that's what's the interesting. So you've got these like not really gangsters, but they're kind of petty criminals, but they feel like people you might know. Yeah, not me personally, but they do feel like there's a really great scene at the beginning of the film where a couple of them in their flat and they're smoking weed and looking at adult magazines, and it just feels of its. I mean, it feels of its time, maybe. But
I think a lot of it was improvised, and that's why it feels quite natural.
Feels quite natural as well. It's very funny, actually. Not like laugh out loud funny, but it's very dark. It's dark humour. It's got some really great, some nice moments, and there's a really great cut. Actually, one of my favourite moments in the film is when Richard, Paddy Considine, he goes into. I think it's the first. Well, he's done the gas mask moment, which is amazing. And then he goes to the other two people, and you think he's going to like attack them because he's got this hammer, and it's really dark. There's quite dark music going on, and then he just pulls out this spray can, and it cuts, and the music goes over to it's that tune by Danger Mouse, and so it's really funky music, and it cuts to the scene where they're driving down the street in the Citroen.
That's all weird. Weird song. It's like a clown car.
It's like a clown car, and all squeezed in listening to this hip hop music, and it's just a very funny moment. I thought I just always remember that scene. It's really good, and we should mention. So his brother Anthony is played by Toby Kebbell, another actor who I think I don't see him as much. Well, I haven't seen him as much now, but he was around. He did quite a few films around that time.
Yeah, and I think this is his first film.
It may well have been.
Yeah,
it may well have been.
And I mean, he's gone on to lots of things. He's been Rock and Roller, the Guy Ritchie film. He did one of the Apes films. Which one was it? The second one of like the new trilogy, whichever that one was. Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Right. Okay. He did another film around this time, which was a British film. It was like maybe just Wilderness. Was it called Wilderness? I think it may have been called Wilderness. I think it's got Sean Pertwee in, I think. Oh, right. And it's like a group of lads go off to. I think they're like young convicts, and they go off to an island.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Is it Wilderness?
Yes. And there's like dogs or wolves or something, isn't there?
Something like that. Yeah. Good film. He was in that as well. Really, good actor. But I mean, I don't think we should talk too much about this film. It's a really great film, and we have often spoken about. I love British cinema, but recently I haven't found many films that really kind of blow me away. Obviously, this isn't that recent now, but this one did blow me away. And I think this Shane Meadows was really a really interesting filmmaker. He's kind of been slightly pushed aside by Ben Wheatley a little bit. Not his fault because he doesn't do films anymore. He's been doing TV stuff. But I think they're both quite similar. They seem to come from a similar time, and
I mean, I think he when he was growing up, he almost became a skinhead, and I think that's where a lot of his, obviously where This Is England came from. It's almost semi-autobiographical, and the people, all the nasty people in this film, are based on people that he knew growing up and things like that.
I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, it's kind of. It does feel. I mean, it's going to feel familiar because it's set in Britain, and we are from Britain. But obviously, this is North. This is Peak District, so it's North England, so it's very different to here. But it still feels like if you're British, you'll recognise.
It's all grey and
miserable, and wet all the time, and it's no Taxi Driver. Although it does feel a little bit. It does feel a bit Taxi Driver-esque, this film. And Straw Dogs 2 is I feel a bit kind of Straw Dogs going on in there. And another film, but I won't mention that film because that would give it away. So ignore me on
worth
that.
Mentioning.
Yeah, worth mentioning. Yeah, I mean, it's also, as I mentioned, I mentioned the tune by Danger Mouse. It's got a really interesting soundtrack. Soundtrack was done by Warp. So I think there's a few Warp artists on there. Aphex Twin are on there. Aphex Twin.
Very nice.
And some other pieces. And also, there's an incredible piece of music near the end of the film. I think it's by Arvo Part, or it's written by Arvo Part, as that the choral music.
Oh yeah,
which is incredibly haunting and just really fits the end quite well.
Yeah,
I'll be careful what I say there. I think it's a really great soundtrack. I bought the soundtrack when it came out. I bought the DVD and the soundtrack and everything. But yeah, so you've said enough about the film. Anything else you want to put in there about it?
I don't think so. No, we don't want to ruin the plot.
We don't want to ruin it. I mean, what I do suggest, if you haven't seen it, I think a lot of people, and possibly a lot of people who follow our channel, especially if you're British and around our age, you probably have seen it. If you haven't, go and see it. And if you're younger, go and see it, because I think I think it still holds up as well. I think, you know, I hadn't seen it for a few years. I saw it a lot when it came out, and it's still great. And even when you know what's going on, you can kind of come back and watch it in a different way, but it still works. And I mean, it's really worth seeing just for Paddy Considine's performance, because it's pretty.
I mean, I think some of them have don't have a lot of acting experience in it, but it's like we said, because it's improvised, they're kind of almost playing themselves to a certain degree.
Yeah, exactly.
And it feels natural. The only strange thing is like we mentioned earlier, is them driving around in a Citroen 2CV, which. It's it's not a car you see very often now. I mean, it wasn't a car you see very often then.
Not then.
It's a bit of a strange sight. And they're supposed to, they're trying to be these hard men, and then they're all squeezing into this little French car.
I guess that's a part. Well, that's part of the joke, I suppose. But I
mean, I don't know. Sorry, go on.
Being that they're supposed to be these. They think they're these big gangsters, but they're clearly not, and they're driving this.
It's quite comical.
So
whether that's intentional, whether it's just because they had it was low budget and that's all they could afford, I don't know. Maybe it belonged to one of them. I don't know, but
I hope not.
Well, they're classic cars now, aren't they?
Anyway, so if you want to see that Citroen, can you? You can.
Yes,
you can. Right, I've just got it on DVD.
Yeah,
the one I bought when it first came out, and it features like classic poster. I mean, it does. You look at that poster, you might think it's maybe a slasher film. It's not a slasher film. It is a revenge film in much the tradition of other revenge films, like That's the Charlie Bronson one.
Death Wish.
Yeah, in much the tradition of other revenge films like Death Wish and other ones.
I mean, he mentioned one of the quotes on the front talks about Rambo, and I guess it's First Blood rather. I guess it's kind of a little bit like that, where he's using his army skills to. Although he's not showing a lot of army skills. It's just burying axes in people and shouting at them really loudly.
Yeah,
I don't know, but I guess maybe from the way that obviously Rambo is, is damaged by his experience, and obviously Richard is as well. He's probably got PTSD or something, which is what makes him so angry.
Yeah, there we go. Taxi driver meets First Blood in the Midlands.
Yeah.
As you do.
Kind of, I guess.
Brilliant genius, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so that's what I've got, and this does have some features on it. There's commentary on there, and there's an alternate ending, some extended takes, deleted scenes, that kind of stuff. But now, is it available on Blu-ray?
It is, yeah, but it ditches all the extras for whatever reason, which is disappointing. And to be honest, because it is low budget, I think it was filmed on 9mm, I think. So it's not, it probably looks a little bit better on Blu-ray, but I don't think the picture is particularly much of a step up from the DVD. So I'd probably just stick with the DVD because it's cheaper and it's got all the features on it. So not hard to find, I don't think, and pick up cheap. So.
And you might be able to stream it somewhere. I didn't look, but I'm sure you.
And I think Film 4 funded it as well, so I think they show it every so often. As they,
it's one that comes up on Film 4. Well, it did.
They have a Shane Meadows season, or they'll have a Paddy Considine season. So
exactly.
It'll be on there at some point.
It's not hard to not track down if you want to go and see it. And probably if you have seen it, well, you would have seen it, obviously. Yeah. So.
Good point. Wow, well done for making all that noise.
Thanks. So that was Dead Man's Shoes, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, let us know in the comments below.
Yep, hit subscribe up there if you like our channel. Check out some of our other videos over there. Pop over to Twitter and Facebook and join us on there, and we'll see you again soon for another one.